Hey y'all, Locktar here, coming at you with episode 23. Now, this one is very special to me because somebody who is near and dear to my heart and to this channel, who's been an OG supporter, somebody who sent me samples originally, somebody who helped me discover what ryes are and how amazing they really can be, somebody who sent me a sample of a very expensive bottle of Thomas H. Handy. That is Whiskey Shaman. If you guys aren't following Whiskey Shaman, you need to. Not only does he have some pretty cool coins, right? He sent me that. It says keep your spirits up. Yeah. He's got some pretty cool merchandise and some awesome ideas, but I've had a lot of people tell me that my palate and the way that I do my tasting notes makes them wish that they had a more sensitive palate. Well, that reaction is how I am with Whiskey Shaman. So he's a level 3 sommelier. I want to do the sommelier course. I want to really get more fine-tuned with my tasting notes and everything. But right now, life is crazy. I'm working 2 jobs. I hardly ever get a day off. I'm doing this after having worked this morning. So shout out to my wife and my children who are allowing me to do this today. Thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. Now, what we're going to do, this is an episode called Blinded by Whiskey Shaman, because he sent me 4 samples as a blind. Now, just like the last time, right? So the answers are in here. You can see it's not open. There's still glue on there. And he taped the instructions to the front of it. Now, this just says, very simply, blind challenge, find the imposter. I get 1 point for the type of whiskey, whether it's a bourbon, a rye, or a malt. Still not tried any malts as far as I'm aware, but if it doesn't taste like a rye and it doesn't taste like a bourbon, maybe that'll tell me it's a malt. Process of elimination. I get 1 point, can't talk today, 1 point for proof, plus or minus 5. So I got to be within 5 above or below on the proof in order to get the point for that. 1 point for whether or not it is a finished whiskey, bourbon, or rye. Bourbon, rye, or malt, sorry. 1 point for the distillery, and a total of 20 points. Now, I get 5 extra points, which is a significant amount, for finding the imposter. And then, of course, he always puts on the bottom, have fun, which for me, blinds are a blast. I absolutely love doing these. I am so excited to see what's in these bottles. It's been sitting on the shelf behind me for some time. I haven't been able to get around to it. And so I am very excited that this is episode 23 and that I am finally getting to do this blind from Whiskey Shaman. I still have quite a few samples behind me that need to be tried, right? I've got a blind over here from Bourbon Hall. Wade sent me some stuff. I've still got a bunch of samples back here from Doc Martinez, from RJ the Fed, from Drizzo. I still have a bottle of Knob Creek 9 that Night Method Dan gave me, and then a bottle of Knob Creek 12 that Drizzo gave me. I still haven't tried either of those. I got to do an episode for that. I have a lot of stuff that I'm very much looking forward to getting to share my experience with you all, share what I'm getting from them, and just have some fun. So this should be a fairly long episode because this is a 4 sample blind, but I'm going to try and be as concise as I can. I know I tend to be long-winded, so with that in mind, we are going to open up sample number 1. Now, one thing I do notice right off of the bat is between these 4, sample number 1 and sample number 4 are darker than the other 2, which has me curious. And it seems like sample 1 is even darker than 4 is. Now, I don't know if you all can see this, but this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. The color difference there is quite significant. And for those of you who are wondering, the artwork behind me, we got on clearance at Walmart. I don't normally shop at Walmart. We just happened to be going through there. I was looking at the toy section with my kids, and my wife walked up with that and said, "Hey, would you like this?" Why not? Let's spice up the whole display here in the studio section of our bedroom, which is where we are. So, number 1, darker than the rest, looks amazing, and oh, he taped these closed. Okay. Well, that makes opening these a little more interesting. But I guess that's one way to ensure that we don't have any leaks. Okay, sir. Sample number 1, I'm going to use a regular Tulip Glen. I have some bottles of water over here. Now, because I am doing 4 different samples, I'm not going to take a lot out of these sample bottles. It's just enough for me to smell it, to taste it, to aerate it, to look at the oil, all that fun stuff. It is a small amount that I am pouring for myself. But that's just because I don't want to get too intoxicated. Now, this has a very fine bead of oil that it creates, and the legs look like waves. So instead of separated legs, it's like a thick coat of oil all the way around, and you can see ridges in that coat of oil, but for the most part, they just kind of blend together and the oil runs down very quickly. I think is the best way to describe it. So, ooh. I feel like I've smelled this one before. This is very familiar to me. Why does this smell so familiar? It's dark. And I can't tell right now if what I am getting is alcohol burn or if it's cinnamon on the nose, which has me excited because cinnamon normally means a rye content. But I'm definitely getting some dark fruit. Okay. Like dark red fruit, almost like cherries. This reminds me of Old Forester. That's what this reminds me of. This has that Old Forester kind of cherry profile, that dark red fruit. I want to call it cherry. You know what? I'm just going to go with my gut. I'm calling it cherry. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Just like last time, I forgot to grab paper and a pen. So hang on. Da, 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 da. Okay. So sample number 1. I get a lot of rice spice on the nose. It's cinnamon. It's almost that black pepper level of spice is the way that it's hitting my tongue. And yet, it's almost like some cherry pie. Very dusty. I get a little bit of that graham cracker note. It mm, it smells really good. I will say that. This is reminding me a lot of Baumburgers. With all the sweetness, I still want to call this a bourbon. Yeah. So, sample 1. I'm going to call it a bourbon. I am going to make that call just off of the nose. Now, it could be a high rye bourbon because I am getting that rye spice. And it could still be a rye. I still need to try it. I haven't tasted it yet. Maybe it's a little early to call it, but definitely going to say it's a higher proof based on the beating and the way that this hits my nose. But it does smell good. All right, I can give it a shot. It's got some proof on it. That's for darn sure. Ooh. That's delicious. Yeah, that cherry really comes through on the tongue, but it's like it finishes with cherry, which I don't think I've had one that finished with cherry yet. Mm. And then it kind of transforms, maybe because of the oil content. I'm getting a lot of honey on the finish also. And I'm starting to really pick out the honey, starting to pick out a little bit of caramel, some light vanilla. It's there, but it's very light on the vanilla. The cherry is really standing out though. That graham cracker crust. Initial hit on the tongue is a little deeper than caramel, almost like a toffee. Oh, wow.
Wow.
There goes Owen Wilson again. Yeah. That toffee, that caramel transforms mid palate into this good rice spice. I mean, it's not quite black pepper on the tongue. It is spicy. I'm gonna call it cinnamon. Cinnamon, some baking spice. I'll definitely get this sweet oak throughout. Um, and then that finish, when the spice starts to subside and it kind of slides off the back of your tongue and you're just left with that oil content, the cinnamon kind of fades to the back and then it's just like this cherry bomb is left in your mouth. It is fantastic experience drinking this one. I thoroughly enjoy this one. This does remind me of Baumburgers though. And so I'm wondering if this is Baumburgers, then that would make it a Michter's distillery. But it could also be, with the way that this reminds me of the Old Forester profile, because it does hit me like my 1920 back here, which you all can see. I mean, I haven't left this one alone. Okay, I'm drinking this thing. It's it's a great pour. I thoroughly enjoy that one over ice. Um, okay, all of that aside, proof on this, I'm going to guess it's got to be over 100 proof. I'm gonna guess 115 proof. Is it finished? It doesn't hit me like a sherry finish. It doesn't leave my mouth dry like a port finish normally does. I'm gonna say not finished. I'm just gonna put NF for not finished. Distillery. I'm guessing Old Forester. I know it could be Michter's. This may end up being Baumburgers entirely. That's entirely possible. But that's my guess. And is this the imposter? I don't know. I'm going to leave that until the end when I have tried all of these other pours. So I don't know if it's the imposter or not. No clue. Sorry. Had to go get my kids in line. I don't know if the first sample is the imposter or not. I did just finish my glass of that one. I love the cherry profile on this. I'm guessing, again, Old Forester, not finished, 115 proof, and I'm going to call it a bourbon. It does have a good rye spice. I'm thinking it's a high rye bourbon, but I'm still calling it a bourbon because of all of those sweet notes that I was getting. Yeah, anyways, that was an amazing pour. I am going to enjoy finishing that one no matter what it ends up being. I thank you for sending me that Whiskey Shaman. Thank you for sending me all of these. If I haven't said thank you yet, I apologize for not saying thank you yet. That is amazing. We are moving on to pour number 2. So you all can see the number 2 on there. Okay. Let's pour. Oh, this one was filled to the brim. Thank you for that, sir. Trying not to waste it. Okay. I still have a significant amount left in that bottle, so let's see how This one compares to the last one. Now it's significantly lighter as far as color, okay? Oh, this smells way different on this nose. This is much, much lighter. Like less proof. Smoother. It doesn't assault my senses as much. Now the last one didn't assault my senses. Don't take that the wrong way. What I'm talking about is I don't feel like there's as much alcohol coming in when I smell this one. The last one, I even stated, I can't tell if this is rye spice or cinnamon or if this is alcohol burn that I was getting on the nose. With this one, it's just very mild, gentle, even. Okay, you know what? Palate cleanser. Hmm. So I am getting, what is that? It's like there's a light sting on the nostrils. Again, it's very gentle. I want to call it plum. It's almost grapey. Like this reminds me of Eagle Rare. Yep. All right. Oil content doesn't bead as finely as the sample number one did. The legs are very separated. It doesn't coat the glass the way that the first one did. However, significant oil content. Like there's a lot going on um, in the Glen for this one. Mm. Yeah, I'm learning that with these blinds, I really just need to go with my gut. And my gut is telling me that that is plum on the nose and that, this reminds me of the 1792 foolproof that I had, but with less proof, which makes me wonder if this is, in fact, a 1792. I'm going to make that call. I don't get a lot of rice spice. Like, I don't get a lot of spice on this at all. Matter of fact, I need to learn how to do this properly because I keep trying to make calls when I haven't tasted it yet. So again, cheers, Whiskey Shaman. Thank you for this. That's an interesting flavor profile. Like definitely a dark, dried fruit. It's associating in my mind with plum. It could be dates. Could be raisin. No, it's not quite dark enough to be raisins. It's not dry enough to be raisins. It's still kind of a juicy taste, if that makes sense. I know this sounds weird to a lot of people, but I get these sensations, and then my mind goes through this Rolodex of flavors that I've tried and different foods and things along those lines. And that's exactly what this reminds me of. It reminds me of a plum. But this is a very unique experience. because it doesn't hit me like a rye. There's not really a lot of spice on the palate. I get the plum. Mid palate is sweet oak and honey, which normally that's my finish, right? Even on the finish, though, the finish is leaving my mouth a little dry. Which reminds me of like the Angel's Envy, the port finish. It's not an unpleasant experience. I'm sorry if my face is telling a different story. I'm just trying to think. So I apologize if my face is making you think that I'm not enjoying this, because I am. It's just trying to figure out what it is. I would not be surprised if this turned out to be like a 1792 single barrel or a 1792 bottled in bond. Okay. I'm going to go with my gut on this one. I'm going to call it a bourbon, not a malt. I've not tried a malt, so I can't say for that. I'm going to say this is the 1792 bottled in bond, so I'm guessing 100 proof. Is it finished? I don't know, if I'm being entirely honest, because it is leaving my mouth dry, which reminds me of the Angel's Envy that I tried. Is this the flavor profile of Angel's Envy? I can't remember what the Angel's Envy tasted like. I just remember the sensation. But I also remember I didn't enjoy the smell of Angel's Envy, but I did enjoy the taste, just not the finish. I'm enjoying the taste, just not the finish on this one. Hmm. Yeah, up front, very sweet plum, kind of juicy, a little sour even on the taste with that plum. It kind of transforms into this very oily, honey-like sensation on the tongue. Maybe a light cinnamon. I mean, there's a burn there, but I mean, it's a whiskey, so it could just be the alcohol burn. So I'm not going to say that it's cinnamon. No, I'm going to call it cinnamon. Okay, yes. We'll just say there's some cinnamon on the mid palate with that honey. The plum kind of lingers, and then that finish, that sweet oak. It kind of, like, the oil starts to dissipate, it goes away, and as it does, it leaves my mouth more dry. Then when I smell it again, my mouth starts to water, which is strange because it didn't do that with the Angel's Envy, and that was port finished. I'm going to just make the call and say not finished, just for the sake of time, because if I sit here and debate with myself all day because I'm a perfectionist, this video will be 10 hours long. I'm going to call this Distillery 1792. I'm just going to say that this is a 1792 profile. That's what it's reminding me of. And that's what we're going to go with. So there we go. And now I'm going to finish this sample, which, thank you for this. This was a very enjoyable experience. I can't wait to figure out what this one is. Just seeing if I get anything different. I didn't at all. Like, that's a very good pour. Definitely lighter and more gentle than the first one. The only reason, by the way, that I am going with bottled in bond or 100 proof is because my experience has been, if it's a bottled in bond product, that 100 proof doesn't hit as hard. Like the Ranger Creek at 96 proof that I have back here, that hits me at 96 proof harder with the alcohol burn than what this one did. But that's the case with Rebecca Creek's bottled in bond. That's the case with all the Still Austin bottled in bonds. The bottled in bond process seems to give a lighter alcohol feel to it. Like they don't drink their proof when they're done correctly. 1792 I've been impressed with so far. I'm going to say that that's a 1792 product, and I'm guessing at 100 proof. I'd be surprised if it was over 100 proof because it drinks that smoothly. Now, if the first pour was the 115 to 120, because I get 5 in either way, so 115 to 120 or 115 to 110, if it was that high, then it would make sense that I'm a little more numb. And so if this does come in at higher proof than 100 proof, that's why I have that 5-point leeway. All right, so moving on to sample number 3. Now I'm going to rinse my Glen from the first one. I'm going to do the tulip for this one. Just bottled water. Swirl it. And then I have a rocks glass here. And I dump the water out into. Smells like water, not bourbon, which is the goal. And all I do is I shake the Glen to get the extra water droplets out. Ta-da! All right, sample number 3. Let's see what you have in store. Now, this one is light, just like sample number 2 was, in comparison to 1 and 4. So, excited to try this one. Just enough to smell and taste. Oh, wow. Very well separated legs. Not a lot of beading. It's more like a solid line of oil all around the top. Very, very light amber color. Ooh, this one smells different. Huh. What in the world is this? This has... I don't think I've smelled anything like this one before. I rinsed the Glen. Didn't rinse my mouth yet. My mind keeps going back to the cherries. So, rinsing my mouth out. Let's give it a fresh take. Is that mint? This one hits me kind of minty. Like opening a thing of Altoids, almost. Some sweet corn on the nose. Definitely some mint in there. Possibly some cinnamon. But if that cinnamon is in there, it's very light on the nose. And I will say it's also not a lot of burn. There's not a lot of alcohol content here. Or if it is, it's just very smooth for its proof, which we all know a lot of bourbons, when they're done right and from good distilleries, or rye even, or malts, I guess, when they're done right, they can be um, well below their proof as far as how they drink. Now, overall oil content, I know I said solid line, separated legs. The more that I swirl this, the thicker it seems to stick, which means that the oil is sticking on the sides longer before it runs down. Kind of like that first one. but I get a good amount of mint. Not a lot of heat, not a lot of spice. There is a light spice in there somewhere. I mean, it's either the alcohol content or it's a baking spice of some kind. This reminds me of Elijah Craig. That's what it is. Elijah Craig or George Dickel. Interesting. Okay, let me taste it. Cheers, Whiskey Shaman again. Thank you. It's got a lot of spice on the palate, and it is funky. I don't know what this is, but it's got this. Don't want to quite call it sour so much as tangy. What does this remind me? There's definitely some sweet oak going on. I wouldn't say that this is a barrel strength. The spice that comes through. Hmm. I I have never tried something like this one. It's got a lot of spice transformation that happens. The initial mouthfeel is like honey. It's sweet like honey. It's very pleasant. It's a little minty. The mint on the nose is stronger than what it is on the palate. And then that spice transformation that happens is almost reminding me of like a cinnamon altoid. It is a very strong spice transformation that happens, which makes me think that this is actually a rye. Matter of fact, I'm going to call it that. This one I'm going to say is a rye. I do get some kind of fruit. It's almost citrusy. It's like it's like cinnamon and orange on the tongue, mid palate. So that initial, the typical vanilla is there, the caramel is there, but it's more like a light honey. It's a very thin mouthfeel. It's not very viscous. Um, Even when aerating it or doing the Kentucky chew. Excuse me, make a burp in your ear. Um, like even when I aerate it, it doesn't have that spice level when it's sitting on the tongue. When I swallow and the oil and everything goes away, that's where that spice transformation really happens, which is what reminds me of a rye. And that's why I'm going to call this a rye. It's either a bourbon friendly rye because it's not an overwhelming level of spice, um, or it's a well done rye that is finished. Ooh. I'm going to guess this one at 95 proof. I'm going to say that it is finished. And just because of the sweetness, it finishes. What would give it an orange note? I'm not even going to call it orange. Let's just say it's citrus. Okay? We'll just call it citrus for now. That's what that reminds me of. As far as distillery, I'm throwing this out there. I don't know. This could be the Elijah Craig rye. I've never tried that before, but the mint has me either thinking George Dickel or Elijah Craig. And I'm trying to think of what whiskey shaman would send me that would have that. Um, I'm just gonna say Elijah Craig, and I could be completely off. This could even be a malt and not a rye, but I'm going with my gut. That's my whole purpose in this is to just go with my gut, see if I can get these tasting notes right. This is just for fun. It's not like it's for money or anything along those lines. So I hope I get this right, but I also honestly hope I get this wrong because that might make for more views because y'all are going to be laughing at me. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, that mint. So initial mouthfeel of honey. When I swallow, that mint kind of transforms and kind of lights up my whole palate. Cinnamon comes through. That finish with the citrus and it is not an unpleasant pour. I've just never tried anything with that kind of a citrus note in it. And that funk, I really don't know what it is. It's not an unpleasant funk. I'm just calling it a funk because I don't know what else to assign it as. That was enjoyable, if nothing else. All right, so we are going to move on to sample number 4. And this is the other dark one. Y'all know I'm a proof hound. I am a sucker for darker bourbons and ryes. The darker the better, as you can tell by how many Rebecca Creek Double Barrel Spanish Oaks I have. I've got one up there, and I've got one down here somewhere. I can't see into the camera enough, but y'all know what it is. That deep molasses looking pour. This thing is very dark. I like it. Okay, sample number 4 is going into my. I haven't cleaned this one yet, so no, it's not. Hang on. You tell I've been drinking? Bottled water goes in. Swirl it around. Dump it into my rose glass. Shake, 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 Sonora. Shake your body like. No, no, nobody wants to hear me sing. That's cool. Need to rinse my palate too. All right. Let's see how this one goes. Pouring just enough to taste it. Swirl her around. See what we get. Good separated legs. It's a heavy coating, and it is beating like crazy, which has me very hopeful. This has some burn on it. This is high proof. Ooh. After having already had 3 samples, for this to hit me the way that it does, it's got to have some proof on it, okay? There is a definite spice level in this. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Like, that's making my eyes water. That's how heavy this one is hitting my nostrils. This is definitely the highest proof of what I have tried so far. This smells to me, as far as alcohol level, like my 127 proof Rebecca Creek back there. Matter of fact, I'm going to call that. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not going to call it yet. Nope. Need to try it first. Come on. Use your brain, Patrick. Cheers. Wow.
Wow.
Are we listen again? I don't care. This is a wow worthy pour. What is that smell? So on the nose, it's very tropical. Like, take the citrus note from the last one and just amplify it. This smells a lot like citrus. It smells like it's just very fruity. And I say citrus because that's the way the acid is kind of playing with my mind right now. Or the acidity, the way that it kind of hits my tongue feels like the acid you get from a heavy citrus fruit like an orange, or not quite lime and lemon, but maybe there's zest because it is a little bit bitter. Um, Orange zest. Saying that about the lemons made me think, oh yeah, we zest oranges too. That bitterness and that now it's not an unpleasant bitterness because as you know with orange bitters, you get this kind of the citrus feeling and it's a little bit sweet, but also that little bit of bitterness which can play really well, which this does. Um, Initial tongue feel, it's kind of thin initially. It hits me like a deeper than caramel, toffee almost. There's not really a spice transformation on the mid palate so much as it is like a deep oak, a sweet oak, but those bitter oak tannins are on the tail end of it. It finishes kind of bitter, like that bitter citrus zest, like that orange zest. And then molasses. That's what I'm getting. The finish, I mean, it lingers. It's this brown sugar, this earthy, sweet oak, that molasses kind of a finish for it. Very pleasant pour, but the smell, the way that it noses. So what I initially interpreted as proof, I mean, with the way it is in my mouth, it's very smooth. It's extremely smooth. Glad I didn't call the proof while I was just nosing it. This is definitely different. I don't think I've ever tried anything that tastes like this. It's almost salty, even. Yeah. Yeah, that deep toffee, light caramel and vanilla transforms into a bit of sweet oak, a little bit of that bitter orange zest on the finish. Feels like honey, doesn't really leave my mouth dry per se. It's not dry like a port finish would be. I don't get any like sweet fruit notes other than the orange or the citrus, what I'm calling orange zest. Now, this being the fourth pour, I'm going to be conservative on my guesses here. Hmm. What I'll tell you is that I enjoy this one as much as I did the first one. Different flavor profile, different way that it hits me. Not really a high spice level at all. I'm going to call it a bourbon. And a bourbon that doesn't have a high rye content. That spice transformation is really what I expect when I think of a high rye content in a bourbon or a rye itself. Not a lot of spice on here. What I want to call spice, I would also call that orange zest, that bitterness that comes through. Excuse me, that bitterness that comes through. Since it's the fourth pour, the way that it hits my nose, the way that it is on my palate, I'm going to say it drinks below its proof, but I'm going to call it at 110. 110 proof. I'm going to say it's not finished. If I had to guess, just because of the citrus note, I mean, that could even be pineapple, which makes me think of Buchanan's pineapple, which I've never had, but it's that or Jefferson's. That's really the way that this has got me thinking. I've never tried a Jefferson's product. I've never tried Buchanan, but the research I've done about flavor profiles and the things that it makes me think of has me thinking Jefferson's or Buchanan's. It's not a heavy enough pineapple for me to really think Buchanan's, though. It's just that it's reminding me of that. So I am going to guess Jefferson's as far as distillery. As for the Imposter, the last time the Imposter was the Thomas H. Handy, it was a more expensive bottle. In this one, I've guessed 3 bourbons. So I'm going to show you all my notes. I've guessed number 1 as a bourbon, number 2 as a bourbon, number 4 as a bourbon, and number 3 as a rye, which would make me think that to call an Imposter, it's got to be the rye, right? So I am going to label number 3 as the Imposter. This is my official final check-in here. I don't see any malts on there. I guess number 1 as a bourbon, 115 proof, not finished, and Old Forester. Number 2, bourbon, 100 proof, not finished, 1792 as the distillery. Rye for number 3 with 95 proof. Yes, it is finished. I think that is finished just because of the way it left my mouth dry. And Elijah Craig is my guess with that because of the mint notes that were on it. Number 4, bourbon, 110 proof, not finished, and Jefferson's is my guess. Now, 4. Thank you again, Whiskey Shaman. I've been drinking. Don't blame me. Okay. Thank you again. And by the way, y'all, not only did he send those 4 samples, this is old JHM port finish, 143.68 proof. It is a 13-year. He sent me a sample of that as well. He labeled this one, though, so it's not part of the blind. I will definitely enjoy. I mean, look at how dark that is. He knows I like dark, high-proof bourbons, so he sent me this sample for me to enjoy. Thank you so much. I owe you so much. I mean, if we were in prison, I'd owe you some very unspeakable things, and thankfully we're not. But yeah, that is fantastic. This was an extremely enjoyable blind, by the way. Now, for the big reveal. We're going to open the answers envelope, and so you all see I wasn't joking. Y'all can hear it's ripping, pulling off of there. Okay, let's see here. Number 1. Ooh. Y'all, I was way off on a lot of this. Wow. I don't think I got very much right, but that's why we write things down. Okay. So I'm going to show the sheet, okay? If you want to pause it and look, you are more than welcome to do so. Hang on, let me see if I can get it to focus a little more. There you go. If you want to pause it and take a look, this is the answer key itself. Maybe I'll take a picture of it or a screenshot and I'll throw that up there. So the answer for number 1, it says Iron Root Republic Harbinger, the plantation. It was rum finished. I said it was not finished, so I don't get a point for that one. But I was spot on with the proof, y'all. That was 115 proof. I was spot on with the proof, which has me very excited. So I get 1 point for proof. I really should get 2 points for proof because that's crazy. That is a bourbon. I get 1 proof or 1 point for that. I said it wasn't finished, so 0 points for that. He put that it's from Texas, Iron Root Harbinger. If you don't know, Iron Root is a fantastic brand. I've tried a couple of their different offerings, and I really enjoy everything that they have. As dark as that one was, I'm really going to enjoy finishing that sample, I will say. But that's beside the point. Okay, I put that it was Old Forester, so I don't get points for that. Their flavor profile had a lot of cherry in it, and that could be because of the rum finish with the cherry. It should have been like brown sugar and molasses, if I'm not mistaken, but that's beside the point. Okay, the second pour, it is, I put that it was a bourbon. It is a bourbon. That was Kentucky Owl Takumi Edition, so I get 1 point for the bourbon. I was spot on with the proof again. Yeah, I get 1 point for that. I said it was 100 proof, and that's exactly what it was. I put not finished. It is not finished, so I get 1 point for that. But I was way off on the distillery. I said 1792. This is Kentucky Owl, which, by the way, that's the first Kentucky Owl I've ever tried. Delicious and enjoyable pour. All right, number 3. This one was the Imposter, which I actually called it as the Imposter. However, interesting. This is a Spirits of French Lick Hauser Apple Brandy. It's not even a bourbon or a rye. This is a brandy. Interesting. Okay, so I get 0 points because I called it a rye. That's a brandy. I don't think I've ever tried one before. It's 100 proof. I guessed 95, which gives me in that 5-point range. I do get that 1 point. I said it was finished. It says it's finished in used oak. So yes, it is a finished product. And I put Elijah Craig. However, this is a Spirits of French Lick Hauser Apple Brandy. So that's not Elijah Craig. I don't get any points for that. Number 4 was a Dad's Hat Rye Whiskey. Now, I said it was a bourbon, which means I get 0 points for that. I did not get that one correct. This one is only 94 proof, and I guessed 110. Because of the way it hit my nostrils, I should have gone with my gut. I was wanting to call it 95 after having tasted it, but I went with my initial impression, which I called my gut experience, and it was wrong. I should have gotten a point for that one if I would have gone with what I thought, but we're going to leave it as a 0 because I want to be fair here. I said it was not finished, but it actually is. It is port finished, so that's 0 points there. And I said it was Jefferson's, but it's Dad's Hat out of Pennsylvania, and I have never tried any Dad's Hat, so I got no points on that last one. However, I did get some significant points throughout. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 5. So I actually ended up with 13 points out of a total of 20 points. 13 out of 20. That's not bad, folks. All right, so I'm going to post this up here real quick, just so you see I put above or below how many points I got. 1 point for the bourbon on the first sample, 1 point for the 115 proof, because I got that exactly. No points because I said it wasn't finished and it was, and then no points for Old Forester because it's not. Number 2, 1 point for bourbon, 1 point for 100 proof, 1 point for not finished, and 0 points because I called it 1792 and it wasn't. Number 3, I got 0 points calling it a rye. It was not. I got 1 point for the proof at 95. It was 100, so I was within that 5 proof point threshold. I said it was finished, and it was. I called it Elijah Craig, but it was not. And it was, in fact, the Imposter. So I got that correct also. And number 4, I got 0 points all the way across the board. So a total of 13 points out of 20 for the second Imposter blind that I have done from Whiskey Shaman. Thank you so much again, sir, for sending this to me. This was an enjoyable experience. I hope that you all enjoyed it as well. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'm at 250 subscribers, by the way, which thank you all so much. That credit goes out to you all, especially Bourbon Hall or Wade from Bourbon Hall for shouting me out last night, getting me the last 3 to get me to the 250. And everybody else who's been here from day one. You know, you guys were here when I had less than 100 subscribers. A lot of you were here. Some of you, you know, you got me to that 150 mark. You got me to the 200 mark. Now we're at the 250 and we continue to grow. I am very excited for what this channel is doing. I am loving having these experiences in the evenings. This is just for fun. It's a lot of fun for me. Thank you all so much for everything that you have given me. It wells up such gratitude within me because a majority of these bottles are not ones that I have purchased myself. Y'all have no idea what that means to me, that so many people take a look at me talking to a camera while they're going throughout their day and enjoy my content. Enjoy me talking about these bourbons and whiskeys and ryes and everything else that's going on in my life. The fact that you are willing to engage with that, the fact that you are willing to sit here and watch it, to leave a like, to leave a comment, all of that, it means the world to me. It really does. There's nothing like it, and I can't say thank you enough. So again, thank you for your support. Thank you for everything that you all are doing for me. Thank you for the samples, everybody that has sent me samples, for the bottles, those that you have sent me bottles. Thank you to my wife for this lovely painting. I rather enjoy the way that it looks, even though it's got a Basil Hayden on it. I mean, Major Zero can comment on that. It's got a Jack Daniels in it too, and I don't even like Jack Daniels yet. But I do have some samples from Life from the Patio that include Jack Daniels. So I have a Jack Daniels 10-year, which I am trading to somebody else. I have a Jack Daniels single barrel proof bourbon and rye that I am going to be trying. I have a sample from RJ the Fed of the Rebecca Creek 16-year, and I can't wait to do an episode for that one either. For tonight, we are done. Y'all have a great rest of your night. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.